everyone, I'm Rebecca and welcome back to my sewing room. Today I am going to be doing a rather long-awaited project, which you will probably know that I've been very in need of if you are a frequent watcher of my vlogs, because I am going to be recovering this sewing table. But I also want to walk you through how I made this sewing table in the first place, because it is honestly probably like my favorite thing in this sewing room. If you have a designated sewing space, I highly recommend that you get yourself some sort of ironing cutting table, because that is what is so special about this table. I can actually cut and iron and even pin into this table, and so this one piece of furniture, which also acts as copious amounts of storage for all of my various fabric stuff, this one piece of furniture does just so much in this room, and it's like at a good height for me, and I just seriously, I cannot recommend highly enough that you have a sewing and cutting table, ironing, sewing and cutting table, if you have a designated sewing space. Now, obviously, for those of you who do not have a designated sewing space, this doesn't really work for you, because like this piece of furniture actually can't leave this room without being disassembled. So yeah, in that case, you might want one that can like fold down the sides. That works. Or I showed you guys a while back a sit stand desk that I had been given by FlexiSpot. That sort of thing will really work well if you don't have necessarily that designated sewing space. But I don't know that it would work well with an ironing topper. In fact, I'm pretty sure it would not work well with an ironing topper, because the main thing that you want here is you need a wooden base. So the way that this is constructed is this is actually built like the storage sections here. They're built out of the cubby storage solutions that come from Target. I think they're like the off-brand Closet Made, but they're that size. They're not like the IKEA Calyx size, which are a lot bigger squares. I have those over on the side, which you've seen in a lot of my videos because it's basically always my background. So these are smaller, and because of that, they work really well to provide a base for a tabletop that will be 36 inches by 60 inches wide, which I find is, I mean, I wish I could go bigger. My room is too small. I find that that's kind of like the minimum that I would want. I wish that I could get like a huge, 50 by maybe 70 plus size table, but that just will not work in this 9 by 12 sewing space that is so crammed in here. Hence why I'm also so close to the camera right now. So I built this table back in the end of 2015, so it's nearly 7 years old at this point, and it is still like the sturdiest thing ever. Like honestly, I could probably stand on top of this and jump up and down and it would be totally fine. And it's probably also because it weighs so much as a base. So let me get you off my tripod here so that you can see a little bit more of the table, so I can show you the way that this is constructed. And then we'll take a look at the tabletop surface itself and show you how many layers that is made up of and what all goes into it in order to make it ironable and pinnable and cuttable. So yeah, let's go ahead and take a closer look. So you got to see a lot more of this cabinet if you watched my video from last year, or maybe longer, where I like reorganized all of my fabric stash. But basically you can see these 3 units that make up the cabinet here. So I've got one on the side. This is the side of the side unit, and then one on the main side, the long side of the table, and then one more over here on this side. Though this one is perpetually dark because I really don't have any lighting facing over there. And each cubby holds a drawer or like other things that I need, or the folded up flat folds of fabric. So they're all very useful. The drawers are used really for scraps. And then I've even got like shoes and stuff down there. And so these are all put onto a plywood base down here. So you can see it's actually 2 layers of plywood that are down here. Sorry, my messy floor. And then underneath, I do have casters, but they kind of have sunk into the carpet because of the weight of the cabinet itself. They do allow me to move this out a little, which I will be doing for this video because I have to get to the back side over here of the table in order to do the tabletop. But yeah, it's not actually very mobile. It's more just like shoving it out of the way because it's very heavy and fully loaded. So all the cubby units are mounted onto the plywood. You can see like we've got that really large screw in there. And then I've also backed them with plywood because otherwise I think they came with like little cardboard things that would only cover some of the cubbies for some reason. And I wanted a fully back wall so that nothing could like accidentally get, you know, pushed through to the other side. So the inside is fully lined with plywood as well, which also gives it additional structure because it's helping. It's not just like the cubby units that this is all resting on. It's actually a 3/4 side of square of plywood in the back as well. You can see the plywood in that one too. Then on top of that, the tabletop is then again mounted to the cubbies as well. I don't know if I've got any visible screws. No, I'm not exactly sure where the screws are. I think they might be coming from the side units, but it is actually like physically, I can't push this up. It's fully attached to the units in here. So as you can see, hopefully from under here, this is the kind of underside of the tabletop. And there are actually 3 layers here. This underneath, this is ironing board fabric. I know it's blurry, but this one right here that I'm touching with my thumb, this is ironing board fabric. So it's that like silvery fabric that's coated in batting, and it is what is meant to go on ironing tables. Then this is just cotton batting right here, like cotton quilt batting that you get in the really wide rolls. And then this is just unbleached cotton canvas on top. And you can see where it has been like nailed and stapled into place all around to cover up all of those edges. Now I do believe that when we were putting this together, we did do the ironing board layer first before even attaching it on anywhere else. In fact, we may have done all of the layers first. I'm not gonna be able to do that now, but as you can see, the ironing board layer is actually like going underneath there. Luckily, I don't need to change that out. I just need to change out the canvas because, as I'm sure you all know, it has gotten really, really gross over the last 7 years. Most of this, honestly, is just from like little burns and spills of water from when I'm ironing, but I have this whole huge surface, all of which can be ironed on. And if you do want to use a rotary cutter, you just slap the mat on top, and you can use a rotary cutter on the top as well. But in the meantime, you can also pin into the surface of the board so that you can actually like pin things in place and they don't move around. I find that very, very helpful. And yeah, so let's go ahead. We're going to start with uncovering this. We're going to start by pulling out all of those staples and nails that are holding this cover in place. And then we're going to replace it with the brand new canvas topper. So now that I've removed the staples from this side, I can peel this up. I already peeled up a little bit. It's sticking just a little bit here, but I'm hoping that I can just kind of pry it apart and not have to replace the cotton batting layer. I think it's just years of having all of that pressure that's kind of like felted it together. If all else fails, I can go get more batting. I just don't have any currently. There we go. So it was just this front section that had gotten caught up, probably because I've used it the most. Now, as you can see, this front section is also fairly discolored. This is the batting layer, not the top layer over there. And so it is a little bit tempting to recover this as well, but like it still feels plush. It doesn't feel like it has, you know, it doesn't have any holes in it, anything like that. This little dark spot right here, this is actually beginning to go into holes because this was where the hole was on the canvas. So my scissors have kind of caught into this several times and dirt has gotten through, which is why it is particularly dirty. But I still think that it's probably going to be better at this time just to leave this as is and not spend the extra money and like waste all of this batting, you know. I am not planning to waste this, by the way. Parts of it will probably get tossed where it's really, really bad. Oh my God, look how disgusting this is. This line is a very, very smooth part that it was the edge right here. And it's where I've just like leaned against it for 7 years. And it has taken on a whole different color than like the burned and spilled on part up here. But yeah, it's really quite gross. Sorry for that grossness. But yeah, I think this is going to be just fine. So I'll go ahead and leave the batting on it and just recover the canvas. But next I have to pull this away from the wall so that I can access the staples that are on that side. And I'll also show you what the inside of this cabinet looks like. That should be plenty. Let's take a look at the inside of the back of the cabinet. So this back here is the very dusty internal part. I'm actually surprised it's so dusty. That is my old ironing board that I used to use. It was a tabletop type and I would use it on the floor. Oh, and then look at that. I've got the case from my embroidery unit. I forgot that was in there. I've got a couple of old like art prints, and I think this was like a foam fitting system for a dress form that I never really liked. And for some reason, I still have the box to my old sewing machine, which I do still have the sewing machine, but that's down there too. Oh, look at that. Pattern instructions. Huh, I should probably put that with that pattern. So yeah, lots of storage back here. It's just, you know, not very accessible, but you can see the plywood that is backing all of the cubbies, and it does create a nice large storage area for large items. So one slight issue is that I found out back here that I definitely had the tabletop covered before it was attached to the base, because this portion of the table is inaccessible and I'm not exactly sure how we screwed the tabletop to this. I can't find the actual screws. So I think what I'm actually going to do here is I'm just going to like cut the canvas right here, being careful not to cut the batting underneath. I've already pried off the staples from this section over here, but it's right here and then over there on the other base that I can't actually get to the canvas edge under this section. So of course, as soon as I cut away, I was reminded how this is attached. We have these brackets on the inside, and that is what is attaching the tabletop in there. Now that said, I believe there are also additional attachments more here on the edge, like on the inside, but I just could not find where those might be. But it's like, it's definitely attached here at the corner. So yeah, I don't remember exactly how it was, but I think we do have some maybe hidden attachments up there as well that I can't find. All right, so the table is now cleared off of the canvas. I actually was able to pull the canvas out from like in that little gap. I was able to just kind of pull the staples out and it all came out. So now I can go ahead and lay down the new canvas on top of this. Yes, I kind of wish this was different, but you know what? I don't feel like going and getting a whole bunch of batting. So we're just gonna lay out the new canvas. I had already pressed it before I took this canvas off. So it is all right here. This is just about 2.5 yards. I think I had gotten a remnant piece. I don't need quite that much because this is 60 inches across here and 36 inches the other way. So I knew that I needed enough that it could fully overlap the end and tuck in so that you wouldn't see the raw edge underneath. And that one side, this side probably is gonna be selvage up here. And I'm just gonna staple that in. And then I also knew that this shrinks a whole lot in the wash because I wanted to wash it on hot. So that is what I did. I washed it on hot and then, you know, dried it on hot and then pressed it because obviously I can't have this shrink once it is on the table. So ideally this would be done with like 2 people because then they could help me hold it in place, but we're going to see how well this can work with just one. So I'm going to be starting with the front side of the table here, which again is that selvage edge. And that way I can just like pull the other side taut. I don't even necessarily have to tuck in the raw edges really on the back side because I never go back there. It's not going to have like anywhere whatsoever back there. It just needs to hold the staples securely. I do have a staple gun that I am using for this and hopefully everything will go smoothly. I would love to not have to put some nails in as well, but considering I had nails on all the corners, I think if I remember correctly, this had a hard time going through like that many layers of canvas because the corners, everything kind of gets tucked in over itself. So I will probably have to do some nails on the corners as well. But yeah, we're going to start with the side here. And basically I'm going to start it so that I have just a little bit of overlap on like this corner so that I can fold it in, which I may actually even go ahead and iron a press on here on this side just to start off with. And this, I know you can't see this corner right here, so let me move my camera. So this, once it will get pressed, it'll get pulled over and we'll get pulled over here, and we'll start with this corner right here as an anchor point and staple that side, this side, and then we'll already have this kind of like fastened where it can act as a third hand basically, while I go to the other side and do that side and staple all of that down. So the edges are all done up now. All of those staples set in, and I think that worked really great. Like even the corners, some of them actually worked quite well with staples. I did have to do nails on a couple of them, but yeah, even the corners worked out really nicely. There is the back side there, and here is the front side here. And the table top looks so beautifully clean. I'm just absolutely loving it. Like, can't wait to iron on it, and it's just so smooth too. So yeah, the batting feels really nice underneath, and this is going to be such a great ironing table once again and last me for years and years to come. So just for contrast's sake, we are going from this disgusting table cover here to my nice new ironing table cover here. This is again just so fantastic and useful. You can plop your cutting mat right up on top, or you can just use the nice cutting surface here. Also, because it's fabric, it like grips to your fabric, so fabrics don't tend to slip around as much. I highly recommend building some sort of an ironing table in your room, especially one that's at a nice high height like this one is. It is just such a useful piece of furniture and equipment in your sewing room. So if you do have that designated sewing space, 100% recommend. If you already have something like this, but maybe a different configuration, please do share about that in the comments, because I would love to know what your setup is like. And maybe you have some setup ideas that are better than mine, or that are different than mine, or that are useful in different ways. And I'm sure that everyone would love to hear about them. So please do leave your setup down in the comments. And if you have pictures maybe of your setup at home, go ahead, tag me on Instagram, and I'll share those in my stories so that people can see what your cutting, storage, etc., ironing setup looks like, because again, this is like the best piece of furniture ever. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you do have any questions as to like the actual build, please do leave those in the comments as well, and I'll try to answer them. If you liked this video though, please go ahead and click the thumbs up icon. And if you'd like to see more videos like this from me, please go ahead and click subscribe and the little bell icon to be notified every time I post a new video. I do post videos here on YouTube twice a week, with my sewing vlogs out on Tuesdays and other random costuming content like this out on Saturdays, but I post every day over on my Instagram, so please go follow me on Instagram. That's at Lady Rebecca Fashions. And if you'd like to help support all of the work that I do on this channel, I do have a link to my Patreon and my Ko-fi down in the description below, or you can send me a super thanks right here on YouTube. I'd also like to give a special shout out to my Edwardian level patrons, Sharon and Mirage. Thank you all so much for joining me today. Have a wonderful week, and I will see you very soon in my next video. Happy sewing!